with a special guest tonight. Tonight's podcast is going to be especially good for a lot of you who are either interested in starting businesses, interested in starting freelance careers, or you're already in them and you're looking to take up your magnitude of success, right? We're going to help you crash through any of the barriers that you're currently experiencing. So be sure click my profile up here, and then when you get to my profile, just click the play button underneath my pretty face. That's going to take you directly to my YouTube channel, and then you can pull up the live stream where we're doing the podcast live and in living color. My man Nick's in the house. What's up, brother? Good to see you, man. So yeah, everybody on TikTok, be sure to do that. I will leave the TikTok up and running for another couple minutes just to let folks that filter in know that we're live on YouTube, and we're going to shut the TikTok down at about 9:05. All right, so just so you guys are aware, everyone that's tuning in on YouTube, you can see I have a special guest tonight for the podcast. It is my brother from another mother and my business partner, Mr. Tony Farmer. He's in the place.
What's happening?
I see you got that total gym set up, bro. You look like you going to war in there.
Sometimes it feels like that. Sometimes one of the things that I've learned is whether it's mental or physical, you have to keep the tools sharp. So
Sure.
whatever toolkits you have and tools that you are in the toolkit, you got to keep them sharp. So I believe that the body is a temple,
For sure.
and from time to time, I have to do whatever it is I need to do to keep it going, keep it moving.
Amen.
Body in motion.
So everybody on TikTok right now, or YouTube rather, is seeing my desktop instead of the live. That's because I'm trying to make sure we're actually recording this bastard. Because that would be real hilarious if I get through an entire podcast that we don't record, and then
That would be funny.
have to dump
Well,
the sound from YouTube.
not funny, haha, but funny, ironic.
It'd be funny, like, yeah, good job, genius. But yeah, man. So definitely use your Amazon Prime, and I recommend everybody get an Amazon Prime account at this point because just the benefits you get with it. Just to watch that All or Nothing show, and even for people that aren't football fans, man, it's there's so many life lessons in those shows, especially the Arizona Cardinals season and even the Dallas Cowboys. As much as we're not Dallas Cowboys fans, because where we come from, here we go. Um, but just the lessons learned, and like getting to see Jason Garrett for real outside of just the media hype about him, and seeing how he coached those guys and really gave it the best he could to make those guys work together. Um, but that scene with Bryant when he gets the entire defense together is like, listen, guys, y'all are special. Y'all have all the talent, but if you want to get to this Super Bowl, and Bryant had already been to the Super Bowl with the Seahawks and won it, and was like, if y'all want to get there, I got news. We ain't gonna get there playing like this. And then he literally starts screaming at the guys. And it's just when he did that, I think I stood up in my bed like I was on the team. Like I was looking for my shoulder pads or at least my
That's
body
some
armor.
sight right there.
Like
I
son,
wish I had a camera
like
camera shot of that one. I'm sure
he
that
had
was
me
entertaining.
stand up like, oh, y'all better. Because I remember playing, man. I really remember playing, and we had a guy on our team named Sean, and he was one of our inside linebackers, and he was also the captain of the kicker. Because when we grew up, we played all. I played special teams, offense, defense. We played everything, right? And I remember Sean also led kickoff team, and there was one game like we had to win this game if we were going to go to the playoffs that year. Sean comes out to give us all right, let's go do this speech. Tone, I am telling you the absolute truth. Not a single word that came out of Sean's mouth was in any discernible earthly language. I swear he was speaking in tongues, and every player on the team knew exactly what the F he did. We're like, ah! Screaming. We didn't even know what he said. Like, you couldn't understand. He's like, and it was like, and we just went out there, and that was the game where I'm pretty sure that was the game. Yeah, it was. It was the game where we kicked off, and this team had really good running backs, fast dudes that also return the kicks. And he's coming back, and I'm the dude that's gonna have to tackle him right on this, the kickoff team with the angle of pursuit, and I missed the tackle. I go high, and he jukes me, and I just jump kicked him in the throat. Because when we
That
watched it
sounds like a
on,
Brian Chambers thing to do.
when you see it on film, you just see him running, and because that type of film, it ain't like the NFL. It's like you just see
Right.
this dude running, you see my hands in the shot, and then all of a sudden you see the helmet's not on screen. You see a foot come up, and then his helmet just drops out of the frame of the shot. And it was just like, and I remember my coach saying, "All right, Brian, good hit. Like, no penalties, no
What else,
flags."
what else is there to say?
It was just like, a good hit, man. Whatever it takes. And because I should have been thrown out of the game for that, but I guess the
Nothing else to
refs
say, my friend.
in the traffic, the refs didn't see me just jump kick this kid in between his shoulder pads and his face mask. But yeah, that said, hey, everybody on TikTok, we're getting ready to shut the TikTok down. Make sure you come over to see us. We are live on YouTube right now. We are filming my podcast live. The title of the show is Two Skills Every Single Entrepreneur Must Have If You Want to Win. Not the only two skills, but two skills you better have in your toolkit. And this goes for you whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a freelancer, whether you're an artist, even whether you're a laborer. Having these skills is going to help you accelerate your professional and your personal life and your relationships, as you'll see when we get into it. So definitely come over, holler at us on YouTube. I'm going to go ahead and get ready to shut down here. That said, Tone,
Yo,
it is my distinct honor to have you on the Brian Chambers Movement, and finally visibly, because you've been on the show a couple of times.
yeah, it's been a
Uh,
while.
it has been a while because life is life, and we both have 470 kids between the two of us. And with Nick here, with Nick here, it's like 511 kids. So
5'11". Thanks, Nick.
there's a lot of kids in my
Critical
audience
mass.
to include in my house,
Yes.
and so it's come to this. And I want to thank everybody that's listening to this after the fact that's not watching on YouTube, and for the folks that are on YouTube watching. Like I say every show, I want to say thanks again for attending Warriors, the Brian Chambers Movement. Thank you for giving me just a little bit of your most valuable asset, which is indeed your time. And my promise and Tony's promise, I'm going to speak for him, is to make sure that we give you at least 10 times the amount of value of the time you have to invest into listening to us every single Monday, 6 a.m. We really work to help you on your commutes, and hopefully put you in a space in life where you no longer have a commute. So you can do what you want to do on your terms, right? That's a big part of what we're doing here. So thanks for being here. Today's topic, I believe, is very important, and it actually was born out of a conversation Tony and I have probably had, I don't know, Tone, what, a
A
hundred
lot. A
thousand different
lot.
times in life.
Yes. Yes,
But
I think it's a permanent part of the DNA of our conversation.
agreed. And we'll share some of the analogies because he and I had a phone call today just to catch up because, like I said, this is my business partner, but this is also my brother, man. I have very few people in my life that I consider family that I don't share blood with, right? And this is one of them. And we were having a phone call today, doing what we do, which is usually spending the first 20 minutes laughing, and then we'll handle business for about 2 minutes, and then one of our kids will shit the floor or something, and then we'll have to go take care of that. All right, so I'm honored to have you here, brother. Thank you so much for being here. Today's topic is two skills that every single entrepreneur must have. Not the only two skills. I argue that there's thousands of skills that we have to have in the toolkit, but these two are particularly important. And I'll go ahead and name them. And then, Tony, I'm going to give you a second just to introduce yourself. There's only about 4 people here that shouldn't know you because I talk about you every time I turn a camera on. But the two things we're going to talk about is third level listening, or is it level 3 listening? What's that?
Level three.
Level 3
Level
listening.
three.
Thank you
Hmm.
for correcting me. And then the second one is how to cause pattern disrupts or disrupting somebody's pattern or routine. Now, having said that, Tony, please just take a few minutes and introduce yourself to the 4 people who have not heard me talk about you for the last however long I've been on the internet.
Well, one of the things that Brian and I share is the desire not to waste anybody's time.
Amen.
Because, as Brian said, time is such a valuable asset. So I won't waste a whole lot of time talking to you about me. I'm really here to get into the topics and really be a sounding board for any issues that might come up in terms of how we can help you all be better entrepreneurs, better people, how we can help you progress in life. The one thing that I will say that about myself is that I am at my core a coach. I at one point coached basketball for 10 years. I coached my daughter's soccer team for about 4.5 years. I'm a certified spiritual coach, certified life coach. I've got some certifications in facilitation, but I really don't want that to be a focus. I will say that if you are looking for a coach, executive coach, life coach, spiritual coach, then and you tune into Brian's podcast on a regular basis, Brian knows how to get in contact with me.
Absolutely.
But I'm really not interested in promoting myself right now. It's really about providing you all with some information that we believe that will help you progress in your life, in your business, whatever that may be.
Absolutely. And you don't know it yet because I didn't get a chance to tell you. But one of the things I'm going to have you do on this show is come do a coaching session with me. So I'm going to be your student. I'm going to let you show the audience how you do your craft, and put me in some vulnerable situations where I have to answer hard questions in front of the audience, because I want them to see.
If you game for that, I am.
Well, dude, at this point, what about my life? You know stuff. Well, I think my wife knows almost everything you know about me. You certainly know more about me than my mother does. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
But it's good for the audience to see that vulnerability in me. But it's also good to see a true expert savant at what he does go to work, right? And so because I have a lot of people who listen to me that are in that industry, right? That are either going through the certification process now or are just getting started in doing it. And I think they would be encouraged to see somebody who's at the top of the game because, both of us have been coaching in some capacity for. You've been coaching for over 30 years at this point, haven't you?
This is a long time.
Yeah,
Long time.
and it's over 20 for me. So, being able to see that's dope. All right, so let's get into talk to me about what is level 3 listening for the because you just taught me what that was today. Uh, I always called it active listening and listening to understand. I didn't know we gave it an official name. Um, Walk me and the audience through what exactly is level 3 listening.
So I don't want to talk about the level three until I give you an understanding of the first two. So
Cool.
I have to kind of introduce the three levels, understand that we're going to park on the third, and that's where we'll continue our conversation.
Cool.
Most coaches will tell you that there are three types of listening. The first type of listening is listening for response or listening in your own brain. So, what does that look like? If I'm talking to somebody, for example, and I'm thinking, man, those clothes are raggedy, or man, my clothes are raggedy, or man, I need to wash my car later, or wow, this person really isn't able to articulate themselves well. I'm in my own brain, I'm in my own head, and I'm not focused on what's being said to me, right? Not completely. So that's level one listening. I'm engaged in a conversation, but only peripherally.
Right.
Uh, Level two listening is I am hearing and understanding, and I am processing to regurgitate what I'm hearing. So if somebody is sharing information with me, the level of listening is such that I can at least process what they're saying and then hold it up as a mirror to say, here's what I thought I heard you say. Here's what my understanding is of what you're saying, and here's here's how I process what you're saying. Right now, level three is my personal favorite. Now, it's important to understand in coaching, and any coach will tell you this, that all three have their purpose. All three you will endeavor upon when you're in the coaching process. But level three is my favorite because level three is about energy. It's about body language. It's about intonation of voice. It's about facial expressions. It's about very subtle shifts in the air that you notice when somebody's conveying information. Now, if I say something, if I ask Brian a question about his combat experience, his tendency is to get very his voice kind of elevates, his energy elevates, and I can look in his eyes and tell that his mind in that moment snapped right back to the battlefield. If I ask him about something that he cares absolutely nothing about, then I'll get indications of that. Now, as a coach, it allows me to make observations to shift the questions that I'm asking to elicit the information I need to get the client in a space. So, for example, if Brian is in a conversation and we're trying to help him in the coaching context, and I feel his level of energy diminishing, it's lowering. I can feel him kind of, the interest isn't as strong. I might ask him about football. Now, you guys have been on coaching calls with Brian enough to understand how he feels about football. That pops his energy up. Once his energy up, now I can redirect that to pull out some other stuff that he may not want to talk about as much. At the end of the day, all of the information I'm drawing from Brian is to create a map, create a schema that helps him look at his issues, his challenges, his goal set in a different way.
So is that using a topic that's going to make me come alive, as it were? Is that considered priming the subject, or is that considered is that do you guys call that priming or
That's an excellent question. That's an excellent question. So a good coach is not directive, right?
correct? Correct.
A good coach is the passenger in a vehicle that the client is driving.
Correct.
Now, there are some places that you can see the signage. You're in a car, you can see the signs, right? And again, for the purpose of this conversation, I'm parking in level 3 listening.
Yes.
So imagine you're a passenger in a car and the person is you're not driving. There's a person driving the car. You're the passenger, and you see the car accelerate. You feel the car accelerate, but you're looking at the signs and you see curves ahead, right? So you might just want to, make the person driving aware. Hey, there's some curves ahead. Let me make sure you're seeing those signs, and let me make sure that those signs, the direction we're going in, and the fact that you see those signs are congruent with where you want to go.
Right.
If where you want to go is void of curves, my job is to make you aware of that. And if that's the direction you want to continue in, then that's the direction we continue in. If it's not, then I help you divert. That's kind of the way a coach should work.
And
A
at which
coach
point do you jump
passenger
out of the car?
say what?
I said, at what point do you jump out of the car if they're not slowing down?
that's that's the wonderful thing about being a coach, because there are situations where you feel like you're heading toward direction. You
Yeah.
might be headed toward a cliff. My job is just to let you know you're heading toward the cliff,
Gotcha.
right?
Gotcha.
And
Yeah.
in in another sense, if I'm moving beyond the cliff, just to let you know, make you aware of some things you should equip yourself with should you go off the cliff. Does the vehicle we drive and have an airbag? And it's funny because we joke about it, but you would be amazed. Yeah, I have been amazed. One of my strengths in my coaching skills is visualization,
Yes.
and
Yes. Very
not
much.
everybody is good at it, depending on how creative or technical the mind is. But visual visualization has worked for me in coaching situations more times than you imagine. So if you say to the client, hey, you know what, I feel a cliff coming. Based on what you're telling me, I feel like there's a shelf that we're about to come to. Are you prepared for that? Have you
Right.
thought about the impact? Have you thought about what how how far off the fall is? Have you thought about how you might want to climb back up? So those are the things that you want to have in your tool bag, your backpack, your rucksack, as you would call it, as a coach, um, to prepare you for wherever the vehicle may take you.
Right on. Okay, so then when we get to level three listening, we're listening to understand. Um,
Yes.
what? So listening to understand sounds as if it would be a very effective way, not just for coaching, but for communicating in general,
Oh my
for
goodness.
two people to communicate. Is there then any real value? And so for folks, and let me give some context to this question and why I'm asking it. So in my journeys on the internet, right? And you know all these stats, so it's kind of moot point to you. But in the millions of people that I've reached on social media making content, at least half of the people that I'm engaged with, if not 80% of them, are very very skilled at level one listening. And not even
Yes.
just very skilled at it, but that's where they're comfortable and that's where they exist. Uh, and when you're dealing with topics and trying to communicate to somebody that can be deeply nuanced and require a lot of context for them to fully understand what's being said, they can get lost. So, is there, with it sounds like level three listening is kind of the goal for listening just in general. Is there any value to levels one or two, or should we always be in level three listening?
So, excellent question. Level one and level two are what I would call, how would I say, they are entry points onto a highway, they, off ramp or on ramp,
Okay.
right? You have to have a sense of where you are to be able to relate to where the person you're dealing with is.
Okay.
So there's got to, so for example, if you have a deep trauma and the person you're coaching has a similar trauma, you have to have a level of awareness of how that impacts you and what your triggers are to understand whether you're in level one listening or not. So just understanding, having enough self-awareness to be able to filter what somebody's telling you and go, oh my God, I went through that myself, and then quickly get out of that and go, or even be able to say, you know what, Brian, I'm having a hard time self-managing right now because there's something you're telling me, the things you're telling me is impacting me on a deep personal level. That may draw you closer to the client. That may draw you closer to who you're trying to create a dialogue with. So that's level one. Level two is you're really listening deeply or deeper for understanding. So listen, here's how this made me feel when I went through the similar thing. Here's what I hear you saying, and here's the picture I see you painting. Right
Got
now,
it.
now, you asked me two questions. You asked me one, but they were really two questions.
Okay.
Right. The first one was when you're dealing with people in a digital space, how did these things play out? And then how important are the one and two before you get to the three?
Right,
Those are the
right.
two questions
Or is there any importance to doing one and two when it sounds like three is the one you want to be in?
I well. So it's important to be able to skillfully walk through all three.
Got it. Okay. That
Right?
makes a lot of
You
sense.
may need level one for connection. You may need level two for relativity. You may need level three after trust has been built,
Got it. Okay.
after
Okay.
after relationship has been created. Because level three is really a place in the relationship, in the coaching client relationship, where we built some kind of rapport. We kind of know each other. I kind of know your rhythms a little bit, right? Because initially, I might not know what an eyebrow raise means,
Right,
right?
right, right.
Until I draw attention to it, until I start asking you about it, until I get a feel about the rhythmatics of your communication. So in your space, uh, either in the digital space or the entrepreneur space, I should say our space. Uh, I I think of what you and I are going to talk about in part two of our conversations, which is the pattern disrupt.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. And so, is it right for me to assume that a master of listening in general is able to operate in all three modalities, whether simultaneously or when a communication opportunity requires them?
I have I have witnessed artists.
Yeah, that's why I'm
I
asking.
mean, real masters at their craft who can skillfully weave between the three.
Okay.
It is when you see it in action, when you see master coaches or master facilitators. One, and let me just in case somebody's out there who's thinking about being a coach. Maybe they haven't started down the road of certification yet. Maybe they haven't really decided whether coaching is a valid profession, or maybe they're processing a lot of things with programs. The first lesson that I will give you is something called managing the fixer.
Managing
Managing
the
the fixer.
fixer.
Managing the fixer.
Got it.
Now,
Okay.
now, in order to develop one, two, three levels of listening, the first thing you have to do, it sounds very sounds like one of those rhetorics. It sounds like rhetoric. It sounds like overused terminology, but it really is key. You have to remember it's not about you. It's not
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
you.
For
If
sure.
if somebody, if I call somebody up and I'm trying to establish a coaching relationship with them, for example, and they say to me, you know what, you're a joke, you're a farce, you this is horrible. I know people who've done this and they're 10 times better than you. At that moment, as a coach, I'm thinking to myself, okay, not the right fit. Person's frustrated, didn't meet expectation. Maybe I'm not the person for them. Let me transition them to somebody who might be able to help them better than I can. But it your focus always has to be what's best for the client.
Got it.
Always,
Okay.
always has to be. So when I say you have to manage the fixer, most people that you and I encounter on a day-to-day basis, particularly professional people, they are problem solvers.
Right.
Tell me what the problem is, and I will fix it for you. And even in our personal relationships, particularly significant other relationships, right? Somebody somebody comes and says, "Let me tell you about my day. This happened, that happened, that happened." And immediately you're going, well, all you had to do is that. That's level one, right? Like, well, all you had to do, I don't even know why that was a problem, because you're thinking about how to fix the problem instead of just listening, right? Until the person asks you to help them with anything, or until they ask you to engage, it's really, and this is going to sound weird, it's really none of your business, right? Until somebody says, you know, I, I really want to know what you think, or I
Right.
want you to engage on this. It outside of that, you're just listening. But we're so keen on fixing a problem, particularly in the area we live in, particularly in the professions that we've dabbled in, that it's difficult to just listen and not think about what you would do if the shoe were on your foot, so to speak.
Right. Right. Okay. So for to and usually the people who are going to come on my live streams, this doesn't apply to them. But for the other, uh, you know, 10,999,999 of them, um, folks that are comfortable in level one listening, or maybe even level two, and level three is a little bit harder to get to because it takes a lot of focus, it takes a lot of mental energy and emotional energy to be able to do that. And understanding the laws of economics, I believe it's the fourth principle of economics that people respond to incentives. what's the incentive of developing that level three listening? Meaning, what are the benefits to the user of level three listening that they should develop this skill?
Now, let me just make sure I understand the question.
Hmm.
You're not asking what the benefit of the coach is.
No,
You're
just
asking what the benefit of.
yeah, any person, or it could be a coach. I'll let you choose the context, but what is what is John Doe's incentive? Because you and I have been at this a long time, and we don't have to mince words. There are very few people who exercise regular level three listening. Um, so what incentive can we give to those folks to say, hey, this is a skill that you definitely want to have because John Doe, Jane Doe, having this skill will open up these benefits to you as a human being, professional, personal, or otherwise.
Okay, so here's how I would answer that question. I've had a lot of people in various sundry times in my career come to me and say, Tony, how do I get promoted?
Right.
Tony, how do I progress in an organization? Tony, how do I get rewarded and recognized for the contributions I make to the organization? And I go real simple on them, right? I said, you have to understand your boss's boss's problem.
Yeah.
Understanding your boss's problem is really understanding your problem by extension. So if you got issues you're dealing with, typically you and your boss are kind of tamping out on the same issues, right? If you go to the next level, again, that's a whole nother level of extension. But if you go 3 levels up and you figure out what that person's concerns are, typically it gives you a ticket. It gives you a notion as to what you need to do to convince this person you belong in the next level. So if you are John Doe, as you say, if you're sitting in your living room and you're trying to figure out how come I can't get to the next level, it's because you're not listening for the issues
Mm.
that are at the level that you're trying to attain. You're trying to solve my issue right now. You have to be listening now. In order to be able to determine that, level 3 listening is a good tool, because if you are in an audience where your three line up, or your highest level directive in there, the higher of the hierarchy of your chain is in your circle, then listening at the level 3 will give you an indication of what they care about,
Mm.
of what stresses them out, of what they're focused on, of what their plans are. And I'll give you an example. just just to put in your pocket. Okay, so I used to work for a guy, and he loved golf. Love golf. And so at the time I was, just learning the game. I never loved it like he does. I like to go out and get around and every now and then for exercise, but never loved the way he did. But irrelevant to all of that, we used to have an office. The office that we worked in was right across the street from the golf course, right? So the thing was to get invited to go play golf with the big guy. That was the deal. And if you played golf and he knew you played golf, you would tend to get invited. So, I'm chit chatting with him one day, and we start talking golf, and he says, "Oh, I didn't know you played." And I said, "Yeah, of course." And he says, "Well, sometimes I get together with the guys." Long story short, we go out for a round one Wednesday morning or something. And when I left that golf course, I knew everything that he was concerned about in the company. I knew I had strategies on how to deal with him. I had perspective on how he'd like to receive information. And all I did was listen.
Mm.
That's all I did. I didn't try to meet him at an intellectual level. I didn't try to impress him with my accomplishments. All I did was ask questions and then listen. Because What you'll find at the level three listening, if once you understand the value of it, people will tell you stuff that they never even expected to tell you.
Right.
Because
Right.
they understand you're not listening for judgment. You're not
Right.
listening for to condemn. You're listening to, at the end of the day, help them get to where they need to be.
Yeah, that's a
Long-winded answer for a short question, but
but
that's
it's
how I
but it
roll.
was a very heavy question, and that's a fantastic answer. I'm actually giggling while you're talking to myself because when I first got married, I was a master at level one listening. I was the dude that my wife would come to me with a problem, be like, "Oh, I got the solution for that. Let's get busy." And she was patient because my
Right,
wife.
right. I do.
She is a freaking angel, but I didn't know how to do level three listening because I was an executioner. It was like, all right, bam, this is the problem. Here's the resources and the stuff we need to solve it, and blah blah blah. A few years into the marriage, she started being a little bit more like, okay, she would start prefacing, I'm going to share a problem with you with, hey, I'm going to share something with you. I just need you to listen. Don't
Beautiful,
don't come back with the solution 30 seconds because she's like, honestly, I'm
beautiful.
just trying to express how I feel. So I completely lacked the skill to sit there and just understand that she wants to be heard.
Yeah,
Yes, she wants a solution to the problem, but she also wants to know her husband is paying effing attention to her needs emotionally, not just to remove the pain, but to feel the pain with her.
right.
Right. And it took me, it's just funny when you talk about the person that's listening to respond and I got the solution. I got that. I was like, that was me uh, in the early stages, just because that was how, I was an assassin, man.
Well, you're not by yourself.
That's how we
You're not
think.
by yourself. And here's the wonderful thing. Here's the wonderful thing. I'm going to say something that's going to be hard. So I already feel myself transitioning into our conversation about pattern disrupt,
Oh, yeah.
because I'm going to say something, and I'm sure, I trust that you have skeptics on the phone call, particularly as it relates to coaches, and that's good.
Yeah.
I like to have good conversations with skeptics, but here's the thing. Here it is. For each person, every person that has a problem, they are 100% capable of solving their own problems.
Yes.
100%. There is not, some people will say, well, I can't do X until somebody else does this. Now, then my next question, right? When I hear that, I can't do what I need to do. I can't solve my problem until Bryant does something,
Mm.
right? So then my next question is, well, whose problem is it? Have I now taken on Bryant's problem? Is it truly my problem, or is it a problem that I have adopted from Bryant? Is it a problem that Bryant has that I put on my plate, on my
Right, right.
problem?
The person with the problem is the person with the problem. Like if I walk
Right,
up like, Tony, I got beef with you. That's my problem. That ain't got nothing
right.
to do with Tone.
I ain't got to think
Now, it
right.
doesn't mean Tony didn't do something that pissed me off, which he never does. It's not how we roll, but it's,
So
yeah.
let me give you a practical example. Practical example. And again, I'm sure there's going to be some skeptics, and there's people who are going to kind of want to argue the point, which I love that. Uh, but somebody calls you, and let's say it's a mother, a father, a sister, a brother. Somebody calls you on the phone, and they say, "Oh my gosh, I spent all my money on cigarettes and vapes, and I went out to the club a couple times, and I lost my wallet. Uh, you know, mortgage is due, payments are due." They call you, right?
Right.
Now, here it is. It's very important. At that point, the first thing that you have to process is that's not your problem.
Right. Exactly right.
You have the choice. You have a choice as to whether or not you're going to take the problem on or not. But on its own merit, it's not your problem. Now, pattern disrupt says, well, if my relative calls me, then I gotta help them. No,
Nope.
I would say your obligation is to help them help themselves.
Correct. So let's jump into that then.
All right.
let's talk about what is pattern disrupt and why is it important for. So I think you made a very clear point about why understanding the three levels of listening, for, especially for an entrepreneur, because everything you just described is what I've been screaming at my audience for the last 3 days on live streams about consulting, right?
Mm-hmm.
A consultant should talk maybe 25% of the time in a
Mm-hmm.
consulting meeting. It's ask questions. And one of the things I love to do that I learned with level three listening when I'm consulting is ask the question, let them talk, take notes if you take notes, and then when they're done talking, wait 10 seconds. Because usually what happens there is it creates an awkward silence. Nobody likes awkward silence except for the consultant who's made themselves comfortable with it. The client's going to keep talking. And then in that next phase of them trying to fill the silence, they're going to give you gold that you can take notes on. Right. So I think you made it clear why an entrepreneur needs it. You absolutely have to have that skill because if you're building a business, your job is to create a customer for which you can solve a problem. And if you don't understand the customer's problems because you can't listen to them, you can't listen to understand, you can't solve a problem. But what is pattern disruption and why do
So
we need that as an entrepreneur?
there's a couple of things that I think about when I go into trying to explain pattern disruption. Pattern disruption in its simplest form is to think about something in a different way. That I mean that's in its simplest form. Now, pattern disruption and its value is immeasurable.
Okay.
It is immeasurable. Here's why. Because people do what we call in coaching self-management. All right. So I may have a conversation with Bryant and we might be talking about driving to Pennsylvania. And let's just say that this is a drive that Brian and I have taken 100 times. And so I'm driving along and all of a sudden I take a turn that Bryant and I have never taken before. Now I haven't discussed this turn with him at all. He has no idea why I'm taking this turn, but I take a different turn than where I'm going. Now, the typical person would go, Tone, where you going? Like, here's our destination. Here's where we're headed to. And typically when Brian and I are together, there's time constraints because as he said, he's got children and so do I. You got to him. So here's the first thing that I would imagine. What is Tone doing? Why is he particularly if I have not explained it to him in the first place? Now, this happens every day in conversation and every day in relationship. It goes a little something like this. I thought you were doing that because so without really knowing why I'm making the turn, without really understanding what's going on in my head, we make assumptions
Mm-hmm.
about the direction we should be going, the speed that we should be going, and the reason why we're going. And if we deviate from that, then that's disruption.
Right.
Now, if we deviate, right, here's where it gets important, right? If we deviate and the next stop that I make is at Cinnabon, if you all know Brian really well, you understand what Cinnabon means to him, then Brian's going to go, oh my God. Now,
That was a
Brian's
pattern
going to be
disrupt
a
just on
little
this
bit
show.
more comfortable. He's going to be a little bit more comfortable because when I make those sudden shifts, he's going to trust that there's a reward waiting for him when I make the shift.
Right.
Right now, why is this important in business? Because as an entrepreneur, if you're trying to sell a product and a service, 1,000 people are trying to sell the same service or product that you're trying to sell, right? Imagine. I used to have a friend. I used to have a friend who we would go to bars and get chicken wings and beer,
Yeah.
hang out, and he had this habit. Whoever was waiting on the table, he felt the need to hit on, and so it was always this display of, oh my God, I can't stop already. Please stop. It was like watching a car wreck. And I said to him one day, you have to understand. Here's what you got to understand. If there's a young lady whose job is to work in a place where there's a lot of males who come, and the young lady is attractive, and she's trying to make a buck, she's trying to serve tables, she's trying to to feed herself, she's trying to make a living. You have to understand that she's heard the line you kicking 100 times.
Yeah, for sure.
Whatever you said, whether it's hey, I need your phone number, whether it's hey, you must be tired because you've been walking, running through my mind all day. Whatever line you deliver, she's heard it. What are you going to say differently that that causes her to think differently? Because in her mind, she's like, oh, I know where this is going. I know where this is going. But what are you going to do and say to that client, that potential customer, that makes them shift and
Right.
go, oh, I didn't know you were going to say that. I didn't know you were going to do. I didn't expect that. And that is where the level 3 and the other levels of listening come into play,
For sure.
specifically as it relates to pattern disrupt.
Now, you and I had lunch one day, and I don't remember this gentleman's name, but he let's say harassed us a number of times for different issues.
Yes, sir. I
And
remember.
and so this particular day at lunch, we're in one of the kitchenettes at this place where we're consulting,
Mm-hmm.
and homeboy comes in,
Yeah.
and he knows your background because you're a deacon of a church. So he starts leaning into both of us. He starts on you. And so I just start listening because he doesn't know my faith or any of that stuff. I'm just
Right.
listening to all this ridiculous pseudoscience that he's throwing out, and
Yeah.
then evolution, and he's not realizing that first of
Mm.
all he's at the table with two apex predators that he's just
Yeah.
challenged, and who, if we were actually in school for the studying we've done, we could easily have master's degrees, if not PhDs, in biblical studies.
Okay.
He also has no idea that I'm a scientist. So he's rattling. He's like, dude, you're an accountant. What are you talking about? And he's
Yeah. He
rattling
started
off.
quoting. He started quoting Dyson.
Was it Dyson? Or
Yeah.
so he starts quoting all this ridiculous stuff that he read in the
Yeah.
blog about why God doesn't exist. And I'm at this point, I'm like, fine, if that's your stance, cool. But what made it not cool is that he was being aggressive with us.
Mm.
And so he keeps going, he keeps going, he keeps going. And we let it ride for a while. And you hit him with a couple of things. And I started hitting him with actual science and started talking about evolutionary biology. And he was like, oh, God, I'm talking to a guy that actually knows science. And he's lost. But then I said, let me just help you with this whole conversation because you sound like you're struggling. You sound like a dude that grew up as a Baptist kid and then walked away from faith, and now you're trying to justify your newfound atheism, which he was. And he didn't like that we were able to read that. Which, by the way, if that's your move, bruh, I got your back. Live your life. I'm with you. But I just said to him, let me sum up all of this nonsense that you're saying. I didn't call it nonsense. I was respectful, even though he's annoying. I said, if I had to sum up everything you're saying to us, you think that believing in God is absurd. And he goes, exactly. And I responded with, and I agree. And then, like,
Mm.
do you remember, like, his face
Yeah.
almost melted? Like,
Yeah.
what?
It
You're
was
not
it was
allowed
like
to say that. Like, I agree. Believing in God
it was
is
literally like you
absolutely
kicked him in the
absurd.
chest.
Yeah, like
It
it
was
took.
literally like you kicked him in the chest.
It's like
Yeah.
that scene in 8 Mile, where Rabbit, M, he just craps on himself for 20 minutes, and then he's like, "Now say something about me."
Right.
Nobody
Right.
could, and so that's something that I've seen play out in business too. Is it? The bottom line is, if you're going to get somebody to give you their money, you first have to get them to give you their time. Right? That is law. If someone's going to pay you to do a thing, you first have to get them to spend time with you because they have to build trust and rapport. If they're going to give you their time, you have got to get their attention. And that's everything that you just said with the example that you gave, was having to stand out amid 1,000 other people trying to do the same thing. And one of my favorite things to do with business owners is to do exactly. And I don't remember. I mean, we don't have to say the gentleman's name because his business doesn't need to
No,
be in
let's
the street,
not.
and I don't remember his name anyway. But
Yeah.
and that wasn't the only thing he bothered us about. But the point is, for example, if I have a business owner that doesn't believe in a thing can work for his business, and I know it can, right? Because I have the expertise. And they'll say, I don't believe Facebook ads works. Now, what an average consultant will do is then try to pull up their laptop and start talking through all the reasons why it will work, right? It will work. And look at all these stats that I have. And you're not speaking to that person in a language that they can understand because you're challenging a belief system they're holding in their core. What an active listener will do when he says, I don't believe Facebook ads work and they won't work for my business, you lead with, you're right. They don't work for a lot of people. And the reason why they don't work for a lot of people is because they have no idea what they're doing.
So,
Right?
so,
And so it comes down to, and that I think that combines the active listening piece, right? And it's
so,
the minute you start
so
trying to convince somebody or argue with them, you're going to lose them.
I'm going to give you a pattern disrupt, and I'm gonna throw this out for your listeners, and are we live? Can people respond to this in any way?
Yeah, they're
I
in the
don't know.
comments now. I'm reading them. Said
In the comments.
Josh says yes. Bryant really loves Cinnabons. That is one of the coming things he references as examples to get his points across. And other Tony is here. Tony J is here too,
Oh yeah, I know.
our editor,
Yes,
and
yes,
he
we're
he
connected.
makes video comedy segments about me and Cinnabon, and
I
he's
love it.
insane. But go ahead, what's your pattern? Because we have 8 minutes before our next appointment, so
8 minutes before the next call.
we're gonna have
So,
to shut up.
um, one of the things that I was thinking about, particularly in business now I'm gonna throw something out there, and I really would love to hear the response because the concepts that you and I discussed may be very simple in practice, but people will find them very difficult to do,
Right.
right? So for the entrepreneurs, I'm gonna throw some on the table, and I hope the comment lines blow up, right? There are a number of things that drive people, right? There are a number of things that people use cognitively every day just to get through the day. There's a number of things that people experience and practice just to get through the day, business or otherwise, business or life, right? If you want to combine some of the principles that we've talked about, and even some, as Bryant used the example of belief systems, right? Here's the piece of advice that I'm going to give you. In business, don't focus so much on belief.
Mm-hmm.
Don't focus so much on whether or not you can solve problems. Not right off. Not
Mm-hmm.
right off.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be a problem solver, because most successful entrepreneurs will tell you, I can solve my own problems. Here it is. You need to focus on values. You need to understand what your client or potential client values.
Yes.
You understand that, you will be able to create a strategy that will inform your pattern disrupt, so that not only will they listen to you differently or listen to you above something somebody else says, but you will find connection in the value. And if the person you're doing business with, or you're trying to do business with, has values that are out of line with your own, walk away.
Walk away. Yes. You just heavily reinforce something I say all the time to these folks. So that's right on time, man.
Yeah.
You cannot work in a place or serve another business where you don't share their common values. You don't have to have the exact same values, but if you're in conflict, you are doomed to mediocrity at best. So yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on. Let me let you go, and I'll do the closeout here with the rest of the audience and get ready to close up shop.
Well,
Is
let me just say
is he
thank you for
calling?
having me.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm gonna let you end out.
Oh, okay.
Is just quick administrative. Are we calling him or is he calling you?
We're going to call him.
Okay, so you call once we adjourn here. You call him and then rope me in, and then I'll be ready to
Yeah,
roll.
yeah.
But yeah, thanks for being here, man. It's an honor always to share oxygen and nitrogen with you, even if it's only virtually.
On our coronavirus quarantine weekend here.
Absolutely, man. You're a blessed dude. I love you always.
Bless you, man. All
Oh,
power.
real quick. Tell the audience where's the best place to get you. Is it LinkedIn? Where's the best place
I'm
if
on
they want to?
LinkedIn.
Okay.
If people want to contact me, send me an email at tfarmer292 at gmail.
All right.
That's
I'm gonna write it in the
tfarmer292 at gmail.com.
tfarmer292
At
at
gmail.com.
gmail.com. I'm putting that in the comments now so that they can see that. And then just look up Tony Farmer and find this handsome gentleman's face on LinkedIn and make the connection. Tone, I'll be on the line with you in about 5 mics, man. I love you, brother.
Bless you, brother.
All
I'll
right.
let you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Peace.
All righty. Okay, YouTube, thank you so much for rolling with us and tuning into the podcast. Unfortunately, I can't go extra long tonight, and I don't have time, particularly for any Q&A, but I hope you got something beneficial out of this. Reminder, this podcast will be up and live tomorrow. That's Monday at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Bryant Chambers Movement. It's on Apple Podcasts, it's on Google Podcasts, it's on Spotify. It will be on YouTube eventually when Tony J gets around to it. I love you guys. Remember always that we are stronger than I, and I'll see you soon.